Han gjorde det i början.
Gud vad jag inte trodde.
Som Miguel typ, fast som en... det blir lite svårt att ta in en spelare till Tier 1-scenen. Miguel har direkt när han aldrig spelar lag.
Ja, det är sant. Ja.
Alltså jag tror att de kommer gå jättemycket back.
Men vadå, de lär ju ha lagt upp det.
Is it working? Is it actually working? Seems like it may be working. It's working for sure. Excellent. Welcome everyone. Good morning, Vietnam. Hi everyone. I hope you can hear me all right. Thank you, Colsey TV. The same, I'm sure. Whew. Damn, what a day. What a day. Hip hip. What a day. I've been wrestling with OBS here for the past 30 odd minutes, so I'm hoping everything is good to go, and I hope that you have appropriate sound levels and all that jazz, and you can hear me well, that everything is good. On top of everything else, my headphones are starting to bug out, so they're kind of on and off, on again, off again type thing. So I'm not sure I can hear much, but maybe I don't need to hear much. Do you have game sounds? A little bit? Hope you do. Because I've noticed that the streams are awfully quiet without, some amount of game sounds. Awesome, excellent, glad to hear it. Alright, damn, what an awesome couple of past updates we've had, I should say. All we need is your voice, Jorb, says Yas69. Well, likewise. There's a horsey here. Let's try to find some clover. But I guess clover might be hard to find because it's winter. So that's the big news. Damn. I'm being stalked from the get-go by a random nice stranger. Offering to help, I'm sure. Oh, he's offering me a horse. Giddy up. Thank you. Thank you. Oops. Wrong chat. Thank yous. So we've added seasons. I think that's the big thing that has changed here. And we're playing in winter, which is going to be an interesting little experience because I think a lot of herbs have been turned off or significantly tuned down in wintertime. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. Hopefully we can take some notes and, if we discover, and it wouldn't surprise me, that the new player experience in winter time is kind of shit, then we can adapt, and improve and make some changes. And you're all here with me, so if you notice things that seem out of order, then feel free to give a little shout out and let me know. So yeah, seasons. Let's see if we can have a look, have a little look at the updates, the relevant updates. Boom. Seasons greetings, added seasons. So for the past 10 days since this occurred, we have had a an increasingly beautiful fall, gradually turning over into wintertime. And wintertime hit just, was it today or maybe yesterday? So we are now in the first days of winter. This was the first seasonally related patch that we did. Added some leaf piles that you can kick up. Unfortunately, I don't think they are around anymore as we have officially transitioned into wintertime. So I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of, let's bump up our exploration a little bit further. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of opportunity to maybe, do we have a credo going? Maybe start a credo. Let's start forager. Boom. So I think there's bring a frog's crown to Thitnius. Well, Thitnius can forget about me finding a frog's crown in the dead of winter, I think. We stole the rabid buck there from under the nose of the fox. He was not the wiliest of foxes, foxi. But most of the animals are still around, so we can get our aurochs hair fill, at least. So that's good. So Seasons has been a long time coming. It's been like in the original design document since day one. It's always been something that we've intended to have. And so the snow hasn't hit yet from what I can tell. But most of the trees are, all of the trees are fall, have their fall variants, and some have started to turn leafless for the wintertime. But no snow yet, so looking forward to seeing some snow. If Cozy TV says default client feature, waypoints, opening a map, hold Alt and then left click to set a walking point, can place multiple points for auto boating running. It's an Ardennes client feature and makes travel so much better. Yeah, so I suppose the news there was that Ardennes got tired of supporting his client, which apparently a lot of people use. So we've had a lot of requests recently for improving the quality of the default client. And since we're eager to please, we have some pretty heavy well considers in that department, and waypoints are one of the features that we like more than many others. So we have water striders in the middle of winter, and oh damn wolves. Wolves are more common in winter. So let's just follow the river system south here. See what we encounter. I'm like Lord Godiva here, riding around butt naked in the Hearthlands. Add Yetis in winter as well. Ardennes says, actually, I just don't see the point in developing a client for a game I don't play. That's a fair point, and obviously everyone is entitled to feel that way. But in any event, we've looked through at least the Amber client a little bit to try to see kind of some of the features that the client has and that we could consider importing into the default client. And there are a couple that stood out, I think. Let me see if I can think of the ones we did think of. There were a couple of like really basic ones that I liked. For example, he had like an indicator level for water skins. I thought that was a no-brainer. We should definitely have that. A player arrow icon that rotates on the minimap to illustrate players and which way they're looking and such. Am I gonna get wolved? I don't want to get wolved. Damn, son. Maybe not ride around in the mountains in the wintertime. Maybe a bad idea, inadvisable as it were. um, but there are also like a lot of features that I'm pretty sure most people would consider like 100% necessary. And another obvious thing would be to try to clean up our hotkey systems with more consistent key bindings, the ability to set key bindings on your own, um, a lot of nonsense like that, and additional hotkey bars. And yeah, I also kind of liked, Loftar did not like, but I kind of liked how the Amber client had two always visible slots indicating what you hold in your hands. I like that feature. Um, grid lines, bounding boxes. Yeah, see that's where we're starting to get into some of the more iffy territory, because a lot of the clients have, or Amber at least has, features that I think most of the people who use those clients would consider unmissable. Like for example, the ability to turn off like terrain height, turn off the day-night cycle, turn off trees. If you play using turn off what Amber refers to as terrain smoothing, i.e. the fact that the terrain uses several textures, um, and basically also the command to like reduce all objects to bounding box indicators only. A lot of that stuff is stuff that we would be very hesitant to implement into the default client, simply on account of how ugly it is. And I don't really know how to feel about that. I mean, you can go back and forth on it. I understand why people would put those features in clients, and I certainly understand how they would be helpful, especially like in a PvP scenario, and especially since most people seem to be very fond of using the free cam for reasons that I have to admit that I don't really understand. But anywho, there it is. Most people who use custom clients seem to be very fond of, particularly fond of using the free cam mode. And let's see if I can show you cam bad, is it? Yeah. So the nice thing about this camera, I guess, or if they use some derivative variant of it, the nice thing about it, I guess, is that you get more of a immersion RPG type view. And I'm not really disputing that a view like this would perhaps be more ideal in the long run. But in the short term, there's the issue of the very, very short rendering distance and the ugly black boundary that from which things appear. For example, those wolves that we're not going to ride right into. And Toad says non-bad cam is kind of unusable. How would you feel that? Like by definition, you see more of the screen in the orthographic projection. So I'm not sure why you would feel that this camera is superior. And also, like using this camera, I kind of feel maybe is at least a part of the reason why you want to hide the trees, because it's when you use this camera that you get like right down into the leaf foliages of the trees. So bird's eye view helps a lot. Bird's eye view, better zoom, less restrictive. Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe less restrictive I could buy. I suppose it's freer. I suppose that's a selling point. You can orient the camera. Orthocam is fine if it weren't for the rotation restriction on maximum zoom out. Right? You mean the fact that it snaps to like the cardinal 90 degree angles or whatever it is? Yeah, I could see that perhaps. We found a stinging nettle, so apparently winter hasn't killed off everything. That's good. We should probably add some. It would be cool with some like winter variants of certain things, like frozen stinging nettle or whatever. Or maybe winter just hasn't hit hard here yet. So Bad cam says real bits of cam be useful in cramped situations. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not disputing what you're saying. Obviously, you probably use it more in like combat type situations than I do, so you probably have more experience. But nevertheless, I feel strongly that we cannot implement as a because if we implement a camera mode in the default client, then we kind of give the impression that it's a supported camera mode, and I mean, we have implemented it into the default client, so there's that, I guess. Plum stockpiles when? Plum stockpiles, definitely. Content, lit, thick content. Pepper stockpiles is a note I've added. Plum. Plum. Loftar just loves it when we add stockpiles. So if we add this camera mode with in a more formal way, where it's just not just a hidden setting that you can unlock if you know the secret keywords. Yeah, I mean all of this, you really want to get down into these views? I don't know. So if we implement this as a real option, so to speak, then we kind of give the impression that it's a supported camera mode. And I can't really in good conscience do that while the rendering distance is what it is. And increasing the rendering distance is a huge project. I mean, both server side in terms of actually transmitting more map data, in terms of creating more zoomed out versions of map data with less information, in terms of actually rendering more. The client is obviously slow as it is, and increasing the rendering distance would, I think, tank performance pretty heavily. So there are tricks like distance fog. Well, sure. I mean, we could add a distance fog. That would be that's definitely something we would do. Point being, I still think that if you wanted to support this camera mode, I still think you would have to increase the rendering distance, or at least hide the you would, I don't know. And I'm not sure I want to do that. Go down that road. I don't know. I'm not. I mean, obviously, I kind of agree that in a perfect world, in a more ideal world, I suppose something more akin to this. It's been a long time since I played World of Warcraft, but World of Warcraft has a similar camera setup to this, right? Like where you follow at some distance and view your character in kind of third-person mode. Can you make the minimap in the bottom left corner bigger or resizable? That was one of the things that we looked at, and we definitely could. I mean, I think one thing that we should probably do regardless is to make it so that you can pop out the minimap, and if we do that, then making it resizable would seem pretty reasonable as well. So I'm not opposed to that, necessarily at least. Charles Chat says, you heard it here first. World of Warcraft is an inspiration for Haven. That is certainly true. I've told that story on multiple occasions, but I'll tell it again. Yeah, World of Warcraft, I was super hyped for World of Warcraft back in 04 when it released, because I figured that it would be Warcraft, where you can build stuff and destroy stuff and affect the terrain and do cool stuff like that. And so when I played World of Warcraft, I was hugely disappointed. I'm not saying that to diss the game. I'm sure the game is wonderful for what it is, but it was my expectations were completely different. We have some falling fall leaves here, cool graphical GFX. So my expectations were wildly off from what World of Warcraft actually was, and I had a particularly glaring experience when a boss that I'd worked kind of hard to kill, it was just some shitty low tier goblin king or whatever, and I killed him finally after much ado, and I don't know, I don't like this camera, and he just respawned before my very eyes, and that kind of struck me as super anticlimactic. because it gave me the sense that I was only like a ghost moving through the world, and nothing that I ever did really and fundamentally affected the world. And for that reason, or at least out of that experience, a large part of Haven was born. Not to say that there weren't, earlier inspirations or ideas or whatever. Me and Lofter had talked about building games for a long time in this vein. but yeah, that was a bad experience I had with World of Warcraft, and I dropped the game pretty soon thereafter. My mother still plays it significantly though, so Boomercraft confirmed, I guess. World of Boomercraft. Halloween VCK asks, are there any plans for player trading to be any meaningful? I mean, revert of travel changes or changes for forging curios so they were worth something or whatever. Yes, I guess. I mean, first of all, like, are the travel changes really that egregious still? We've made several changes in the direction of leniency as regards the travel layout and setup. So I'm not sure if that critique is super relevant. I don't know. You tell me, I guess. But historically, my mindset has been turned more in the direction of let's make ourselves some pants. Pants. Gotta get them pants. Let's get them pants, boys and girls. There we go. Historically, my mind is turned in the direction of location mattering. And if location is to matter, the analysis has been, historically, that we can't have the ease of fast travel that we had in Legacy. And recently, my mind has shifted a little bit on this point, and I think that I am now more open to the general idea of fast travel, for the simple reason that I feel we have two conflicting design goals there. Like A, the design goal that location should matter, and B, the basic idea of building an MMO where you have meaningful encounters with other players. And yeah, those are conflicting design goals, because if location matters, then travel can't really be instantaneous. Or maybe this is a false dichotomy. If it is, I would love to hear the kind of Alexandrian thrust of the blade that would unlock that Gordian knot. But it seems like a dichotomy to me, at least. And the problem there is that I think I'm hearing my own voice from the computer next to me. Just turn the sound down a little bit. The problem there is that travel is not fun. So, and it also, like, a lot of the situations, like especially for PvP, the situations shift fast and quickly. You have an opportunity to fight someone, and that opportunity is transient in time. So if traveling is a 6-hour ordeal, then you're not going to be able to get to where you need to be in time for that meaningful encounter that you could have had. We have a ford up here, so we're going to head over there. Ooh, here's the ocean. It's pretty cool. We've traveled far and wide. We have. Let's cross. They crossed the River Eisen at Midsummer's. Yeah, and so on that point, I feel that maybe the community has gradually started to shift and sway my thinking, and I'm, more amenable to the general idea of fast travel being relatively easy and whatever. Ardance TV says fast travel with charters just makes sense. It still requires you to make the trek once the old-fashioned. Yeah, I think so too. I think that's perhaps a good compromise, and you could perhaps debate if the outlaw restrictions that we have on fast travel, where you can't fast travel if you're outlawed, if they make sense at all, if they have any game impact for better. because one of the kind of problems is that, especially for the PvP scenario, is that if you are a PvPer, then you would want to use fast travel when you're outlawed, because otherwise nothing makes sense. So yeah, not really sure how to feel about those. Let me know if you have opinions. You used to be able to use CRs with outlaw or where. Yeah, Crossroads. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the outlaw change is probably new from the new version of Haven. But then again, on the general point to make trade more viable, I think one of the things that Legacy had going for it was a flatter quality curve, where like noob forged blueberries still had more relevance to high level players, perhaps. And several people have pointed out that the quality scaling is kind of whack, and yeah, we've begun thinking that as well. So we kind of agree with that analysis, and at some opportune moment, we will intend to make changes to that effect. The quality curve isn't why blueberries were relevant, says Ardance TV. It was the fact that there weren't 5,000 food recipes. Maybe you have a point there as well, or most likely you do. In Legacy, you could only, there were only so many ways that you could get the basic stats, and now you can probably compensate a lot of like forged goods that were previously necessary with farm goods or whatever. And that's certainly a dilemma. Not really sure how to feel about that one. Should we remove recipes? Chat? Should we, I mean, that's certainly an option. Is there a limit to how many recipes we can meaningfully support? And if so, does that reveal a shallowness of the fundamental food event mechanic? Should we attempt to make it deeper? Deeper often has a curious tendency to mean more complicated, and I don't think that is necessarily a good thing. So, H&H Granger says, the more fast travel, the less options for non-PvP players to roleplay traveling merchants. Well, I mean, that's true, but I'm not sure, like, if that's the only, like, design goal that we have, is that it should be possible to roleplay a traveling merchant. Also, I could argue against that. Like, if you have fast travel, then you can roleplay a traveling merchant, because you can actually travel somewhere meaningful, hope to meet someone meaningful, do meaningful trades, etc. I mean, granted, you can't take your wagon and hike across the taiga to sell your peddle your wares at frontier settlements and whatever. But I think, I mean, while that might sound like a noble goal, I think the harsh reality is that I mean, frontier life is hard and arduous, and I'm not sure the hardness and arduity can really be well represented in a computer game, which people play, I imagine, for reasons of having fun, primarily. So, Ardance TV says, speaking of traveling merchants, you should really make KO'd players in water not drown if they don't have rage. Early world, people got cucked hard by getting KO'd in a boat and having their boat bashed. Okay, should make a note of that. I'll just copy your little comments here. So, but that's not small content. God damn it, Ardennes. It's not content. Those are fixes. Key fixes? No. Small fixes. Remove whales. God damn it, no. What the hell? Derp? What did I do? Oh, god damn it. Okay. I'm logged out there. That's fine. I'll remain logged out. What did I do? Just clean that? Boomer! Boomer, boomer, boomer. Okay, but it seems to be working still, so. I clicked Ardennes and then everything exploded in my face. Never click Ardennes. Lesson learned. Lesson learned. So I still have the history here. Cozy TV says, add more quirky world events rather than localized resources. Cool large versions of animals, more things like the beanstalks, animals and burrows, or loot and stumps, etc. Also, teleporting while outlawed would mean you could charter out of your sinking ship of a vault before being raided and killed. That's true, and that is one of the reasons we've added the restriction, because of vaults. I'm not sure how much it changes. Our vaults, I mean, right now, are you still not perpetually safe in your vault, given that vaults can't be sieged? Well, how much did we really change? But yeah, the vault argument was obviously one of the arguments that we ourselves used when implementing the restriction on chartered travel. So I'm not necessarily arguing for removing it. Maybe it fills a purpose. That was a question I asked. So glad we got the counter argument there from Coles. Well presented, eloquently stated, as always, by our Canadian friend. See what we have on Canada. See what we have on Canada. Canada 1. Canadian Mounted Rifles. Quick service overseas. No, this is the one I missed. I love this one. Leaf behind every shitpost. So, Zunzon _ asks, what do you think about solo dungeons? A couple of the rooms that we've added, I'm thinking primarily 2 dungeons. I'm thinking primarily of the ones that keep spawning enemies until you've killed all enemies at one time. So, like, say there are 6 beavers, then all 6 beavers need to be dead at one particular instance in time for the room to unlock. And those rooms were added largely because we felt that they enforced multiple players in the dungeon. So, and I think I managed last world to solo beaver dams, but I got nowhere on that case. So I'm not representative, obviously, because I'm a noob, but from the noob's perspective, at least, that was how that played out. And yeah, ants are solo dungeons. Definitely, you can solo ant dungeons. Agent H. Granger says, in case you think map locality shouldn't matter, then give the developer teleport to everyone. I think that would be a prime example of a false dialectic. I don't think that just because we're arguing a little bit against locality, that doesn't mean that we should go absolutely full retard and anyone can teleport arbitrarily wherever they want at any time. I don't really think that's the argument that we want to be making, and I don't think we want to kind of cast the discussion in those terms either. But otherwise, your PvP customers won't be happy. They want the project to project their might, asshole behavior to all over the whole map on a moment's notice, blah 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 blah. Well, aside from the vitriol there, or aside from the hard feelings against PvP players, I think one of the things about PvP that I find important is that it is a driver of endgame content, like a driver of endgame experiences that are meaningful and fun. And I think that the PvP players, by virtue of usually being like the top players, tend to have beneficial side effects, like, for example, maintaining communities, maintaining villages, maintaining a degree of politics that makes the game feel alive and relevant and interesting. So in a sense, I see, and that obviously then fuels into trade and stuff like that, which is relevant and interesting for the care bearers as well. So I don't think it's as easy as to say that, like, because if I were to set up a false dichotomy, then basically we could argue for just removing PvP altogether, and I think that would suck. So I don't think that's the road we should be taking either. So, so yeah. The barrier of entry, which Ardennes is talking about, is certainly an issue, and I mean there was an argument made for the tradition change slider from legacy there, for example, in terms of like effectively in a kind of an interesting way reducing the stakes a little bit. Another idea that we've tossed around while nobody tosses a dwarf, that we've tossed around while talking about a new combat implementation is that it would be potentially interesting if you yourself could set your own level of commitment to a fight. For example, let's say there was a rage meter and you could, click the berserk button or whatever to increase your rage level, and when you do, your combat effectiveness increases, but your hurt when being knocked out also increases. Something like that, or your risk of death or whatever also increases. Stuff like that I think could be interesting, because at that point you can kind of control your own commitment to a fight and control how much you care about it, and and that way, if and when something bad happens to you, you kind of brought it on yourself. And I think that's... Can we take this? Oh, am I gonna drown? Am I gonna drown? I don't think you can basically not drown. Oof. Oof. Ouch, ouch. Oh, damn. That hurt. Was it worth it? We made it. We made it, chat. Precursor asks, whom I suspect is Shubla. Urbona, have you thought of giving access to resource files in their precompiled form for a community to ease developing of custom clients and tweaks? Currently, them being near impossible or very difficult to access is a major obstacle in developing many things. Well, I don't know how garbled the internal resource format is. I haven't really looked at that, so I couldn't tell. But, I mean, the resources themselves are essentially just Ogre XML files. And those can certainly be imported back into a 3D modeling program of your choice. So, I don't know. I haven't tried it myself, so maybe the problem is bigger than I give it credit for. But it feels like it should be possible to deconstruct the resources. That being said, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to simply handing out my own Blender files. I haven't given it much thought, so I'm not gonna jump at the opportunity to do so. But I wouldn't. I mean, there are no real secrets in there. So that is not where I stash all my secret Jorb videos and stuff. So nothing too scary in those. Ardennes TV says, the issue are the rest files Lothar uses for certain coding aspects. The tree file, for example, got updated and nobody was aware, which was causing Amber crashes. Right. Sure. I haven't looked at the resource format myself, so you probably know a lot more about it than I do. Right. That's interesting. Didn't Loftar give you some heads up though on the fact that there were going to be changes to that format? Agent H. Granger says, problem with teleport is that it's uninterruptible, perfectly safe teleport. No problem in case fast travel would just be reasonably fast while keeping the character in the world. So travel would only shrink map size to reasonable instead of effectively 0. Maybe. I don't. Maybe. I mean, traveling across the map takes some time. You have an hourglass before actually traveling, I think. So, I mean, the travel time isn't 0. So there's effectively, I mean, in principle, we're not dividing by 0, my point being. Effectively, we've already done what you're asking us to do. So Harpy Duck says, why are you not bringing this game to a platform like Steam, free to play? The game is already free to play, so I'm not entirely sure what kind of change you're imagining to the payment model there. But the reason we're not bringing the game to Steam, historically, has been that we've felt, talked about this several times before, so it might be old news to a lot of people, but anyway, we felt that since we're already having to maintain our entire online delivery system, for the client and for the server and everything, the forums and everything, we basically don't really feel that we need Steam for purposes of distribution. We normally, let's say we were developing a single player game, I think it would make a lot of sense to be on Steam, because Steam gives us distribution that we otherwise wouldn't have. But given that we're developing an MMO, we kind of have to have distribution ourselves by virtue of what we're actually doing. And yeah, so for that purpose, if we were to bring the game to Steam, the thing that Steam would effectively be giving us is exposure. And a couple of things there. We haven't perhaps felt that the game is ready for it. There are a lot of things that we want to change still, and we consider Haven to be in permanent alpha, as we call it, and nasty mountain shadow creeping up on us. We consider the game to be in permanent alpha, and I'm not sure that is what is expected of Steam games. This is not early access or whatever. This is pre-early access. There are a lot of things left that we would like to change. A lot of behaviors that we would like to see improve. A lot of the behaviors that we talked about tonight, like player interaction and combat and all kinds of stuff. So, not sure we would have a good time with the Steam reviews and all that nonsense. Not that I super care, but I don't know. If we're gonna put the game on Steam, I feel we have to be relatively, because we only get one launch on Steam. So if we were to do that, then would kind of want to have done it right, so to speak. And also, there are a lot of games on Steam. I'm not sure how much attention it would actually give a relatively minor title like Haven to be on Steam. I'm not saying that it wouldn't. I'm just informing you that I do not know. And also, there are a lot of issues and questions in terms of server structure. How do we set up our servers? How do Steam players play on the same server as anyone and everyone else? What happens to purchases? Purchases made via the Steam store relative our own store. Blah 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 blah. There are a lot of contractual issues of revenue sharing, all kinds of stuff. And being on Steam, I believe that they take a cut of 30% ish. Is the number that I've heard bandied about, and that kind of feels like a fair bit. So those are the reasons, more or less. Harpy Duck says 30% of free is still free though. Yeah, but obviously we also have transactions. You can subscribe to the game. We make money off the game, and that is essential for the furtherance of the development of it. So just because it's free to play does not mean that there is not a business model. So, a peaceful server with no broken PvP would be a huge game for casuals and Facebookers, I bet. I don't know about that. The amount of the player base that cares about PvP suddenly leaving wouldn't kill anything. Maybe though the PvP part of the player base has already left the game well behind. I kind of felt that one of the kind of driving, I don't know, looking back at Legacy, the kind of driving factor for like forum drama and cool stories was the PvP. And I don't know, do you disagree with that? And I kind of also felt that, you know, at least some of the people, some percentage of the people. Harpy Duck says, okay, but why a model though? I don't see what fashion has to do with this game at all. Maybe a business lawyer instead. What the hell are you smoking, Harpy Ducks? What the hell? Jesus Christ. Real Bits says, the difference between Legacy and now is that Legacy people had opportunities to catch up to the top dogs. That's true. That could perhaps be true. Like we added, okay, so Legacy was always intended to have limits to how much food you could eat. We discussed this last stream as well, I seem to recall. Legacy always had, you know, restrictions in place on how much food you could eat. But the thing was that those restrictions were perpetually broken because you could just do hard labor at arbitrary amounts to your own liking to increase your hunger. So effectively you could eat as much as you wanted, and we've kind of fixed that, especially with World 11. We've changed that so the timers are, I imagine, more meaningful now. That is to say, they actually work as intended. But the realization that also-ish has begun creeping up on us, or like the discussions that we've had internally recently, have a lot of them revolved around the fact that with timers you can, as Bitsa precisely says, never catch up. Bitsa says hunger isn't the problem, quality is. That's true. I mean, I tend to think of these as like Granger would call them like unlimited stack growth in general, perhaps. But it's certainly true. Like there's the same mechanic in place for quality, and arguably the quality mechanics matter even more because they affect everything. So yeah. Problem being, like, if there are timers, you can never catch up, and that's certainly true for like farming, for example. Like if you're ever behind on farming, and arguably the present farming quality system isn't the greatest, like we made it so that fields would have uniform quality because we wanted to remove the need for seed sorting, which always struck me as a kind of dumb mechanic from Legacy. The fact that you would sort your individual seeds from individual tiles. The problem perhaps being that, at least the way it's implemented now, is that you just have to plant more fields at more points in time in order to get more random rolls, in order to get more fields with more random variation in spread, and in order to increase your quality faster. So arguably that is a change in favor of autistic people who are willing to do any amount of insane work to get ahead in life, and we call them winners. Anywho, regardless of the view you take of these people, the fact still remains that you can certainly critique the mechanic as implemented on these grounds. So yeah, that's a thing. And so I'm open to several ideas for changing that. Like we could make it so that, for example, quality is capped to your locality in a way that you can basically never move beyond a certain quality. Perhaps locality dependent. Real Bits says remove potter's clay. We could certainly do that as well. But I mean, and the point also being that there are also several mechanics, other mechanics, like several credo rewards that increase quality. There are, arguably the bone clay mechanic itself is, it's intended to allow you to increase your qualities. So beyond what you would otherwise have. And ooh, roots. We're gonna get some roots, boys. Let's see if the timer is bearable here. Still not bearable, but more bearable, and I really need the roots, so we're gonna take them. Also, we need to make a backpack. New goal, make backpack. Zented69 says, remove potter's clay, remove planter's pots, remove metal spiraling, make low cave levels absolutely insane, difficult PvE experience, make nodes matter. I don't know about removing planter's pots. Planter's pots were always intended to be a thing. I've even drawn sketches for those for Legacy, and I kind of like them. This is going to target like nettle burn 100%, right? No, we got 1 point off for asphyxiation, so that's great. But so I don't really know that I want to do that. But maybe reduce the amount of herbs that can be grown on in them. We tried that, but to negative effect. That was a popular change. But yeah, so there are several mechanics that are like geared towards allowing you to increase your quality, and one of the problems there is that we've done that because that has been an easy way for us to reward the player for doing cool things, like learning credos or clearing dungeons or whatever. And coming up with meaningful rewards for the player without just making the quality race and making everything just broken is hard, because like, how do we reward the player if we can't give them more power in the game? And maybe we can give them more power. Maybe the problem is precisely in the catch-up part, where you need to be able to catch up to people who are ahead of you. And maybe in order to do that, we need to implement, like, remove all timers, basically, or at least significantly reduce our reliance on timers. But that kind of leaves us with another problem, which is the problem that if there are no timers in place, then there are also no limits to your grinding. You can grind all day, every day. Maybe this is a false dialectic, a false dichotomy, and if it is, please point out how we resolve it elegantly. But yeah, the problem is that, like, and this was a real thing in Salem, where like time not spent grinding was time lost, kind of. So, but I suppose Salem had that particular setup also, where like you were still dependent on things to tick down, I believe. So time not spent grinding was actually time lost. Maybe you could make it so that you can always grind as much as you want, but you're not actually losing something from not grinding. Maybe that's more fine. But it seems to me that you add like a huge incentive to no life the game, and I'm not sure that's positive. So yeah, basically problems either way you look at it, and not 100% sure on how to resolve them, truth be told. Again, we're doing the riding in mountains during winter, which may not be smart. We'll see if the wolves get us. Our horse is really tired as well, so there's that. He's hungry as AF. Harpy Duck says, what if each day as you grind it becomes less effective because your character gets tired, bored? Character moods could be something. Yeah, but I mean, aren't those essentially just timers or random rolls? Like, you get a random roll for when you're allowed to grind. Isn't that effectively a timer? Agent H Granger says endless growth equals cancer. Like, he has some sort of point there. And I mean, we're gonna be like, at an opportune moment, we will be making changes to that effect. We want to flatten the quality curve, and we want to, I don't know. Like, theoretically at least, we will. I'm gonna get knocked out here by this. How damn goat. It's not the wolves that are going. There's a cave here. Where's the cave? Oh, escaped. Isn't a scaling stat system already on the list from last year? Yeah, I'm not sure what you. Yeah, I mean, scaling as in becoming more difficult the farther you get. That's technically already true, but perhaps the diminishing returns aren't hard and fast enough. Zented69 says, real talk. Whatever happened to happiness? What was the actual plan for it? When we added the happiness meter, I don't know, I'd kind of been playing a lot of The Sims, and we felt that the characters should have like needs and stuff, and happiness seemed like a need that maybe we could do something with. So we made a tentative implementation of happiness where like the character could become happy from various actions like killing small animals. And, I don't know what else made him happy. Like I think standing around corpses made him unhappy, and eating like cake made him happy, and there were like some. It was a tentative implementation, but like it quickly became apparent to us, or eventually at least became apparent to us, that it wasn't really going anywhere. We didn't really have a real idea for what we wanted to do with it, so it got axed at some point. The same is kind of true for the tradition change sliders. Those were lifted from Europa Universalis, had a pretty cool slider system, which I liked, but I never found that it played out super well in Haven. Though the tradition change slider did matter and had interesting properties, so maybe could be something. An older character would have a lower learning rate. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't want to measure it off of age strictly, because like then if you log out for a year and log back in, then your character is slower for no apparent game reason. It was a pretty cool scene with the rolling mountains rolling down into the little valley below. If we had like, imagine having a better camera that didn't show us the backside faces of the mountain, and a longer rendering distance. We could be looking out. Oh, we saw a ton of leaves. That was pretty cool. We could be looking at quite the vista here. I think that would be really cool. Zented69 says, holy shit, that's actually a good idea. What if character just fucking died of old age? No, that's actually a genius. So you have to rely on setting yourself up strategically for next reincarnation. Like, maybe. I don't know. How do you feel about that one, chat? Is Zented onto something here with character aging? Is character aging finally going to be made good? All those people who have been laughed out of the room for arguing for character aging for so many years, will they finally be proven right? Kievermek says, endless grind equals bad. Group challenges equals good for an endgame. You need caps and more challenges in the game. Stronger animals, more NPC danger, and survival. Right on. Like stronger animals, I guess our challenge design-wise there, and I'm not. This one I feel is more like solvable perhaps. But the challenge that we've had there is to make an animal meaningfully dangerous in a way where you actually, as a player, respect it, but where you still like can have some means of killing it. For example, we added whales. Damn, this scene is lagging. So many beehives, so much nonsense. We added whales, and one of the things that we did with the whales was to make it so that they can bash your boat. Mostly because we felt that was reasonable. What we didn't really do was add like an intended way of killing. This is a discussion that we've had several times as regards trolls, but I suppose it's a matter that has been left unresolved. Is that there isn't really an intended use case for killing them, and this is a problem because it leads to cheesing, because it's the only option that the player's legitimately left with is cheesing the animal. So that's what happens with whales. My understanding is that people use various untoward means to locate whales and kill them by means of like luring them close to the shoreline and trapping them with stuff, and then killing them. And I mean, there are several things that you can certainly argue for there. A, it shouldn't be possible to trap a whale. Like, we're not running SeaWorld here. By the way, I read a good book recently, or an interesting book. In 2012, there was a wolf keeper at a zoo in Sweden who was killed by a wolf pack in a wolf enclosure. So she was killed in the wolf enclosure. And apparently this zoo, this like animal park, theme park land called Kolmården, had some pretty like strange and crazy ideas about how to run a wolf enclosure. Among other things, they had like ideas that the animal keepers should go in alone with the wolves and carry no like safety measures whatsoever with them, because that like brings them in close contact with the wolf pack and blah blah blah. And also these wolves were socialized from an early age, so so they were like very used to humans, not at all afraid of humans as normal wolves in the wild are or tend to be, not at all afraid of humans, and basically with no respect. And also they used, in socializing the wolves, they used a lot of like dominance tactics, basically treating the wolves like large dogs and basically becoming the alphas of the pack by physically dominating the wolves in various ways. And apparently, or at least the author of the book, this is kind of an investigative journalist report on the wolf on this incident, and the author alleges that he speaks to several wolf experts and around the world at other enclosures, and he alleges that in a wolf pack, challenge for dominance of the pack is a natural occurrence. So when you are the alpha wolf, or they perceive you as the kind of alpha of the pack, you're going to get challenged by the rest of the pack, or by like other prominent members of the pack at some point for leadership. And so basically the theory would be that this is kind of what happened to this girl, or young woman. She was like 30-ish years old, and small stature and whatever. So apparently the wolf pack just ganged up on her and killed her. And that seems kind of nightmarish. Zented69 says, old age death would naturally cap stats, which is what we want, but you could work with it strategically, especially if the Newman system for a small rework, a farmer be to get your stats, all qualities would suffer, blah blah blah. Holy fuck, it's perfect. Yeah, maybe. Strong diminishing returns, says Cozy TV. After you reach a certain level, check the server average for stats after 1 year of the world, increase that by 10-20%. Then anything higher than that level would basically just be increased numbers for the fun of seeing numbers go up. Yeah, maybe that could be a thing. Like that would, the idea being like we are reasoning in similar terms ourselves. So I kind of agree with at least the gist of this analysis. What happens when the horse reaches 0 satiety? Is he dying now? Is he slowly dying on me as I ride him? We'll ride him into the sunset, boys. He's been a good lad. Turning the fan on because it's getting hot in here. So I kind of agree with Cozy's analysis there to some extent, and Granger's analysis, and all of y'all making that same similar kind of analysis. That a flatter quality curve, lower the barrier of entry to like PvP and relevance perhaps, and maybe like curbing the stat growth to some extent. Seems like a general outline of a good plan. So we'll see. I mean, it's Haven, so there are always going to be mechanical problems because it's actually a massive design challenge. Like when we started the game, building the game, we were really like blue-eyed about it. We were like, why hasn't anyone built this game before? It's an obvious idea, wasn't it? Why hasn't anyone done it? Let's do it. But it's difficult. It's difficult to get it right. We still obviously haven't, and we're 10 years into it. There are like running and maintaining an MMO environment like this with, you know, many players, the ability to spawn as many players as you want, the, you know, design requirement that the game should be relevant for ideally several years, a rejuvenating world. Yeah, the PvP balance of online versus offline, all that stuff is really, it's a lot. And it's a lot to handle, and it's a lot to be like, I mean, people accuse us of being noobs all the time, because we are, and that's a fair point and a fair critique, and I'm not saying that we couldn't do more to be less noobish in our analyses and whatever. But it's also an F-ton of work being like up to speed with all the things that the kids are up to, and you know, how PvP plays out, and how Siege plays out, and blah blah blah. And also, it requires some skill sets that are perhaps not our strong suits, namely talking to people, interacting with people over long periods of time, building trust relationships, and blah 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 with people who can give us accurate and good information. And those are not our strong suits, so there you have it. But we do our best, and we still have, I mean, fundamentally, I'm more optimistic about the game now than I've ever been. I think the game is, like, I'm not going to say that it's in a good spot as it is, but I think development-wise, it's in a pretty good spot. Like, we have, you know, several cool systems that we've always wanted. Seasons, not least of which. So, and any day now, Lofter is going to finish the client rendering rewrite. You may not believe me. I may not believe me. He may not believe it himself. But I believe it. I still have to maintain that one day it's going to be finished and we can move on to something else, namely object-controlled objects. And that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that. Cozy says, I enjoy the game. My biggest complaint is performance. Yeah, checks in the mail, buddy. You're going to get your performance increase. Real Bits says, lots of great stuff in this game. There's a reason I've spent close to a decade on and off playing. Thank you. High praise. Thank you. Glad to hear it, man. Yeah, and I mean, I think the game is better now than it's ever been. Kind of. A lot of people would probably argue for Legacy there, and you know, arguably Legacy had interesting features and you know, aspects that we can still learn from, I think. But apart from that, you know, I think the game is in a kind of cool spot, especially, you know, development wise. So we at least have interesting vistas in terms of like the development opportunities that open up. Nirida asks, will Thwomp freeze? Will Thwomp freeze? Where is Meteor? Where is Siege? Yes, swamps will freeze in winter. So yeah, word up. But yeah, I definitely agree with the analysis that many people have been making it. So hopefully, an opportune moment where we can make relevant changes to these mechanics will present itself at some point. Also, why can't I hold my keys in my belt? The hell? I mean pipe? I don't know, should pipe go in the tool belt? Is pipe a tool? Maybe. It's a tool. Maybe. by some definition of tool, I guess it is. Yes, pipe goes in belt. Yes, it does. Keys in belt for sure. Keys already go in belt. Okay, we'll consider it. Pipes and belt. And belt. Zented69 asks, how long until falling through ice can happen? We need permanent toe removal from frostbite immediately. That is certainly true. That is certainly true, sir. So, best Finland. I kind of want one of these for when snow comes. You know, not the people, but the kick sled. Also, dog sleds would be cool. Maybe dogs would be cool. Keyring can go in belt. Individual keys, no. Key in belt. Once you have over 3 toes missing, you should walk with a visible limp. Maybe. Again, we haven't implemented many, seasonal hazards yet, but apparently there's a strong hunger for them being voiced on the community grapevine. So, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, am I right? I'm gonna pour myself some water. Moment, mom. Don't drown. I'm gonna try not to. Put you. Damn, that's good. Water confirmed for best drink. Milk may be confirmed for best drink. Water is definitely up there. Yeah, where were we? Yeah, sleds. Dogs. Definitely dogs. Like, dogs would be awesome. Did I show you? Look at that manly man of a man. Just dog sledding. Let's show you wolf hybrid. There's an article on this, I believe. Damn, this was not the... There we go. Maybe? No, this is just a wolf. It's just a wolf article. I found a really cool picture of a wolf hybrid. Somewhere on the internet. It was really creepy. It was like it was a dog, but it also was clearly not a dog. Zubaru STB says there should be longer server restart update notice than just 3 minutes like we have now. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think how long would you like? Like, can only restart the server a day in advance, or like within a day's advance notice? No, I think 3 minutes is fine. 2 hours, of course. 24 hours. Like, I don't know. You can never please everyone with that. So I think 3 minutes is fine. It serves our purposes, and I think that's important. Princess Mandy91 asks, Jorb, are you and Loftar doing some sport? No, can't really say so. Nope, no sports. No sports balls. Sports ball. Sports puck. Nope, none of that. I really do not enjoy sports, which is actually interesting because I kind of enjoy, I hate to use the term, but like esports can be fun. Like watching people play games that you like. I, for example, like Magic the Gathering a lot. Makes me a huge nerd, I know, but I do. I enjoy that game. It's a fun game. So I watch a fair amount of Magic content. Or, like, occasionally. I drift in and out of it. But sometimes I watch, and I enjoy that. But, like, sports ball, could never get into that. I have very little understanding of why people enjoy that. And I realize that may be a deficiency in me, but there you have it. It's kind of strange because I do like games, and you know, sports ball is a game, right? So why shouldn't I enjoy it? But damn, this horse is going nowhere fast. I think this horse has run its course. He's not moving anywhere. Zenta69 says snow leopards and snow owls and super hungry mega winter bears when though? Snow leopards, snow owls, snow. That's content, bruh. Lit thick content. Content. Small content. I don't know. That's kind of small content. Small content. Oh, snow owl. Bird. Whew, those are good ones. And angry winter bears. Yeti dungeon when. Another dungeon could be fun. Yeah, but what Kebermek said earlier was also perhaps an interesting point, that we should replace the Harpy Duck says, what the f angry winter bears? They hibernate. Yes, they do, but like bears can occasionally wake up in wintertime, and when they do, they are angry and not to be toyed with. Polar bears in winter, right? Am I right? Yeah, again, Kebermek made an interesting point earlier that that we should aim to replace some of the quality grind content with, or lack of it, with like, you know, more event type things, you know, dungeons and stuff, I presume. And I mean, that was one of the reasons we added dungeons, because like it's a perennial question, like what is the end game of the game? And people say, okay, so Haven has no real end game, blah blah blah. So what games do have real end games? Like, why do you play computer games? I think that discussion goes philosophic real quick, because like, why do you play computer games? Like, you know, thinking of a classic game like Civilization 2 or whatever. Why do you play computer games? Why do you play Civilization? What's the end game? Like, the end game of Civilization is like cool technology and, you know, mopping up everyone on the map that you haven't already killed. And maybe you shouldn't be chewing bubblegum on stream, but I really wanted a bubblegum. I'm just gonna have some of the taste of the bubblegum, and then we're gonna drop it. Like it's hot. Again, why do you play computer games? To watch the like cool wonder construction sequences? That's a big reason for me for playing Civilization, for example. Love seeing those little videos when I accomplish something great. That's a very like rewarding feeling. Love them especially in Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri, which is, we've discussed this before, but objectively one of the best computer games ever made. But I mean, okay, so Haven has no endgame. What should the endgame be? Is it more dungeons? Is that endgame? Because like, should we make little video sequences when you complete, you know, dangerous dungeons? That would really be cool, but it would also, I'm not sure we have the resources really. It depends on how you do it, I guess, but a victory condition for a group or faction suggests real bitsa, and then what? Then we restart the server. I'm not, you know, saying that's necessarily a bad idea. You could be right. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe that's how it should be working. But also, like, I don't know. We've toyed around a little bit with like player-driven resets, and I don't know. The toying around with it alone has left me kind of not really wanting to go down that road, because it gives a really strange like feeling when you know, someone else can just arbitrarily win and wipe your shit. At least when we do planned resets, occasionally, you know, everyone is at the mercy of the same win. Mopsy Pacey says we need more random stuff to explore. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think one of the problems maybe is that the map lacks relevant topology. Like, there's really nothing to prevent the player from just walking across the map, as we're doing right now, by the way. See, we've had quite a bit of a trek. Let's go. We have about like an half an hour-ish. Let's try to close the circle by walking back. So we should be walking westwards. Endgame usually means something you can just sort of hop into and grind out on a loop, like raids in World of Warcraft. Something a little more crafter-esque could be boss mob summons. Gather rare materials, use them on an Edbane altar or in a specific spot, like the Ring of Brodgar, and summon a rare creature your group can kill. Right on. Right on. That's interesting, I guess. Would that be endgame? Would that be considered endgame? Are dungeons endgame? What is endgame? When is endgame? Where's Meteorite? Where is Siege? Are dungeons endgame? I don't know. And especially with a game like this where there's no real. So yeah, again, like the map of lacking real topology, I think that you know we could probably do more with that. Like things we've discussed in the past are like, you know, actual woods that are so dense that they actually block how you can move through them. So you basically have a little tunnel system that you can move through. Maybe that would be a good thing. I mean, obviously we can't presently place that many trees on the map, but perhaps we could do it with other objects in various ways. You know, really thick thickets or whatever. I think the original thickets that we added to Legacy were always intended to, you know, increase the, you know, relevant or meaningful differentiated topology of the map by means of. I don't think we're gonna maybe not make it all the way home, but we're gonna. By God, we're gonna try. Dungeon is an endgame, and we want unique loot. Right on. So what should the loot do then? I mean, obviously, because we've also discussed that we want like flatter yield curves, and we want like flatter, like lower barriers of entry to PvP and all that jazz. How does that interact with loot? Like, how do we reward players in a way that doesn't break the game? I think that's an interesting design question, and I would love to hear chat's take on that. How can we reward players for accomplishing things by giving them things? Presumably, all things serve the purpose of increasing the player's power in the game. How can we give the player more power while still maintaining all the other nice things or design goals that we want to maintain? We're all out of water, so we're going to have to cuck it across the map. That's fine, though. There's nothing I wouldn't do for y'all. Been really missing my World 11 horse while playing. What about something like the darkness, like you guys did in Salem? Yeah, that's also something we've discussed. Legacy had something akin to that in the civilization system. Obviously, the civilization system as such was always a bit poorly oriented in that you basically wanted a low civilization rating because that gave you more dangerous animals and stuff, and thus animals with more XP or, you know, more LP gain per kill. So it was kind of ass backwards in many ways, but still presumably like it's an idea that we float from time to time to have like some sort of civilization rating that, you know, does something akin to that perhaps. Okay, so we need to go. Should we go north around this, or let's try north? Oops. Whoops. Darkness was one of the best parts of Zelda. Yeah, I mean, the darkness in Salem was actually an interesting implementation, especially in that you automatically took damage sort of from the darkness. So let's get some water. Endgame loot could also be rare crafting material like the meteor metal. Okay, so but what does the meteor metal do for you? What should its purpose be? Because I kind of think that you always come back to the fact that you want to reward the player for accomplishing goals in the game, and rewarding the player means, by definition, maybe giving the player more power. Granted, you can make the power very situational. It need not be a general power. Maybe you can only like do a super attack once under a blue moon or something. Maybe that could be a cool reward. Maybe localizing the rewards more in terms of when and how you can use them could be relevant or interesting. But like meteor metal, for example. Okay, so if we make a dangerous axe from meteor metal, then there's a very real risk, at least, that you're now no longer PvP relevant if you don't have the meteor metal axe. And yeah. Cozy TV says, Troll Helmet is a good example of endgame armor that you can trade for. Dragon Scales for plate armor that drains less agility to wear could be an example of a new endgame PvE item. Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that, like, not saying that there aren't things that we could add, because obviously there are. I'm just, I don't know, still kind of strikes me that coming up with like unique, relevant, and interesting rewards for the player for completing dungeons, and also especially like the way dungeons are set up right now, you enter them at peril to your life, so you can die in dungeons because you can't teleport out of them, and that is certainly an intended design feature, but it also makes it so that the opportunity cost kind of for going in and getting the rewards that you can get from, for example, a bat dungeon, it's never really going to be worth it, I think. Or you tell me, maybe I'm not running bat dungeons, but if you are, then please inform me if I'm saying something that's not true here. But it seems to me that, and especially with some of the issues that the bat dungeons also had in terms of like being mobbed by animals and being, even worse, getting stuck on like bugged map generation, poorly generated maps. It just seems like it's not going to be worth it. Like it seems to me that we would have to add like a very, very good reward for it to be really worth it. Endgame loot can be mystical trinkets you gift to quest givers to choose localized better tier rewards, so you must defend with your reward, like +5 local well. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, I'll write that one out. I like that one. Would really like to expand on the quest givers in general at some point and give them like, I've always imagined like a dialogue system where you can actually have a little bit of a conversation with them, and always kind of imagine them as them being possible to level up and all that jazz. So I like the trinket idea. It plays into my thinking on quest givers in general. Cozy TV says, I understand the risk of entering dungeons needing to be there, but currently once you're KO'd, you basically spend the next 2 hours spawning off to lure mobs so you can run 5 steps at a time until you either escape or die to concussions. It's not fun. Okay, what would be fun? Would it be more fun if you died outright right away? If there were no chance of escape? Would that be more fun? Should you not? Oh no, we gonna get killed by a badger. That's the irony here, is that after all the damn wolves and goats and everything that we've been up against, Oh damn! I have a shitty deck. It's the. Oh, there's a horse here. We can maybe we can get a clover to the horse. And giddy up! Yes! No! Almost got there. Damn. Hans, run, it's the Leergolf. Fucking spruce cap. It says XOSP, yeah. Got owned by the badger there. Darn it. Let's see what chat says. It's Carmen. Okay, Holy Grail. There'll be a rare reward from quest givers. A better water skin? Sure. I like that one. That's a good one. So what would make the dungeons more cozy? Like, or more fun, or the challenge more reasonable, or whatever it is you want to see changed? I could shit out these ideas all day long. All day. Feel free to. I'm always listening to good ideas on that note. So isn't there like a risk though, like with your good? I mean, I agree that the water skin is good because I think it's a good idea because it has the quality that I was talking about earlier, a little bit at least, and that it's like a fairly localized bonus, which is still highly relevant in a way, but you're not necessarily dead without it. So I think that was a good idea, Coles. And ideas like that, and arguably the trinket idea was on a similar note. Point perhaps merely being that it's kind of, I don't know, maybe it isn't hard. Maybe I'm just not using my good thinking cap, but coming up with like ideas for. And we have a similar challenge when doing credos, for example, because credo bonuses are very similar, and that we want them to be relatively, at least powerful, that they're worth getting, like, or that you feel rewarded for getting the credo, but still like localized so that it doesn't, you don't stand and fall with having or not having the credo. And arguably some credos are probably overpowered in that regard, and maybe at some opportune moment we may make changes to that. Maybe they should be, like, that was something we discussed last stream as well, maybe they should be more credos with smaller smaller buffs from them. But finding that sweet spot where the item is relevant enough that you care about it and that you would be willing to risk something, like i.e. going up against a tough mob or whatever in order to acquire it, but where it's also not like broken or just increases your quality or your power level in obscene ways, I think is at least not trivial. Cozy TV says, ideally you could hearth out of the dungeon when KO'd, perhaps at the sacrifice of HP in the form of a wound, or an additional wound that puts you out of combat for a day or two. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Endgame idea. Mystical stone to craft with any wearable gear to change its color. I think the problem there is just implementing the color switching system would be the major part of that, and if we implemented the color switching system, I would like it to be more generally available in any event. So, at least for normal items. But a recolorization system would be fun. So we're probably going to do that at one point or another. KVRMX says, Credos have a great potential to be the endgame focus with deeper character specialization. Okay, that's an interesting take. Are Credos endgame? Could they be? Like, I don't know. Like, we've discussed certain credos. Like, I don't want to spill the beans exactly on what we've been discussing, but we've certainly discussed credos with very specific and unique rewards, and very high level stuff. And I'm not excluding that they could have an in-game type quality at least. Credos can be in-game. Gotta catch them all. All right. But does not everyone hate Credos? I know everyone doesn't hate Credos, I think. But at least they're somewhat controversial, right? We're not in our realm right now. Hat-like rewards is endgame material. Maybe masks or pauldron-like skin. Without, yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea. Like, we could definitely do that, but would it be worth it? Would you go out of your way to chase down a power? I mean, there's a real risk that, from my perspective, like a feedback we usually get is like, ooh, the birthday cake is useless, which was Avu's infamous complaint when we added birthday cakes to it. And we added birthday cakes not so much for, them being super relevant, in the eating things online grind game. We added them more, for the flavor of having a birthday cake in the game that you could gift presumably to players having a birthday or whatever. But the comment was that the cake was useless because it just did fuck all nothing except have unique graphics and some mildly relevant stats. Kind of see a similar problem with the hat reward in that, okay, so you clear a cool dungeon mob and what you get is a fucking hat. You're like, duh. Are you going to be happy with that? Because I feel that what most players are after when they complete things like that is, again, more power. So, duh. Santa69 says, people are paying money for hats. Why wouldn't somebody play the game to get an endgame kit? Yeah, I mean, not to complain, but like, it's not like the hats sell awfully well. Like, what our primary like source of income are the subscriptions. So, I mean, granted, like the hats do probably add some value to the gold and silver level subscriptions, but I don't know. We need not get stuck on hats forever. It's just some critiques there. Real Bits says victory condition for clearing one of each type of dungeon, for example, not necessarily a world reset condition, but some sort of prestige. Sure. I mean, a victory condition of some sort could be fun. I mean, one thought that I've toyed with from time to time is adding, like, some manner of basically deepening the automatically given quests that you get for the tutorial quests into more of a like storyline, with an actual main quest, so to speak, of the game that you can actually complete, and in that way kind of finish the game or win the game. I don't necessarily think that would be a bad idea. It could be, in fact, a good idea. The more I think about it, the more I actually enjoy it. So it could be a good idea, but and in that, I think victory conditions play a part. Because I've had some discussions recently with some friends and really talked about victory conditions, and I think victory conditions are probably important. Like I think Civilization, for example, would be much worse without the victory conditions. Recently, I played through Mario Odyssey and finished it and saved the princess and everything, and the victory conditions there, or like the victory condition of beating Bowser and completing the game, was what made it worth it. It was the reason we did everything. It was the reason we jumped on all the silly blocks and did everything. Mario Odyssey is a fantastic game, by the way. I think it's really well designed. I think it's a lot of fun. It's really, really cool mechanic. Mario has a mechanic where you can throw his cap on things, and you become the thing you threw the hat on, and it really makes for some really cool, very innovative, I'd say, platform games are actually a lot of fun. So. Massive MMOs, says Zented69, like Guild Wars 2, basically run on skins. Things like purely aesthetic familiars, like a mini beaver that follows you, armor skin, mask, new emotes, a slight shine to your Hearthling. That should be sought after. I think? I don't know. One complaint that I have about... Ooh, mammoth. Mammoth. There's a mammoth. Maybe mammoth should be somewhat aggressive. I'm not sure I should be able to F around with a mammoth like this. Kind of happy with the mammoth model. I think it looks kind of cool. Mammoths are somewhat... Yeah, they probably are, right? Famous last words before getting dunked. Why don't wolves attack mammoth? They probably should, but do we really want like mammoth corpses strewn, or maybe wolf corpses strewn all over the world? I've seen lions attack elephants, and oops. Oh. The horse ran out of power and threw me off. That's rough, dog. I've seen lions attack wolves on like nature shows on TV, and I'm like, why don't the elephant just stop, drop, and roll? Like, isn't he gonna mush the little lions when he does that? Stop, drop, and roll. I think that's my recommendation for elephants everywhere. Yeah, why not have more animals fight each other? Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, it could be cool, for example, if bears were to raid beehives. And I gotta get up, I gotta get going. I'm gonna see a friend of mine. He's round and he's fuzzy. I love him because he's just Pooh Bear, Pooh Bear. It would be fun if they did, and attack deer and all kinds of nonsense. But I'm not sure I like the gameplay implication of potentially having various corpses of high level animals strewn about the world, ripe for the plucking, so to speak. But maybe animals killed by other animals should be like, maybe animals that kill other animals should actually eat them. that could be an idea. Maybe wolves that kill mammoths should actually eat them and destroy the loot. That seems kind of reasonable. It's kind of dumb how it works now. That, like, for example, when wolves kill chickens, they just berserk and kill as many chickens as they can and then just walk away. Same with rabbits. They just kill rabbits and then walk off. Arguably, they should be picking them up, carrying them off in their mouths to eat them. Yeah, get the bones, exactly. Let's make no bones about it. Hoo-hoo. Maybe that would solve that balance problem if they actually did that. Yeah. And if that could be, if we did it like that, I would be much more open to the idea. I think it makes a lot more sense. Could add in XROSP says could add in something traumatizing for new players. Seeing a wolf or fox carrying around a chicken bacawing in terror. I like the word bacawing. It could be fun, yeah. You should have to follow a wolf, says Zentic69. You just kill the small animal with the animal in its mouth to find the den, find baby wolves, which you would need to steal with a leash to tame it. Yeah, that could be cool. Or maybe like wolf dungeon, and you can find cub wolves that you can tame, and that's how you get dogs. Wouldn't be entirely opposed to that. I also wouldn't be entirely opposed to just doing it traditionally, that you can capture, a wolf, leash it. You probably need like. Kevermek says wolves should kill mammoths and stockpile their high-quality bones on the mountains. Will make bots useless. That's certainly an idea, sir. Let's head over to the fairy stone. But yeah, more high-level enemies in any event would be fun, and I suppose more dungeons would be fun as well. But yeah, Zentit, on the many MMOs live off of selling cosmetics and having cosmetics being sought after items. Like, I'm not entirely opposed to it, but if I could say one thing, it is that it definitely like adds to the art tab. You need all these things need resources, and I'm kind of a bit torn on how I feel about, for example, the fact that I spend a good part of every week's patch working on a hat for the patch. I'm not saying we should perhaps stop doing that, but I'm also not convinced that it's the best, investment of time and effort to make hats every week. But now everyone expects it, so now it's practically a right for everyone to get their hat weekly, right? This is cool. An abandoned base. Let's see if we can find our way inside. Zenta69 says, I figure that hiring an artist would be the easiest additional team member to hire. Just saying. Yeah, that is true. Oh, hey, these crops are fallow. Make 4 hats on one day and roll them out for a month. I'm not saying that there aren't ways around it, but I don't know. It just feels like we build up this backlog of art. Like we have all this art in the game that is very rare, and perhaps that is exactly what we want. So perhaps it isn't a problem. It's just, it feels like a lot of the hat that we've designed and sold like 3 copies of, ages and years ago, and no one ever sees them anymore, and it feels kind of like a wasted resource to me. But maybe that's the wrong way of thinking about it. This is pretty cool. So these guys at least played until the flagpoles update, and then checked out. And they built this cool dragon and oriented it so that it on the minimap is displayed upside down. Love the dragon. Not sure about orienting it so that it is displayed upside down on the minimap. Zenta69 says, by the way, I'm an artist looking for work. That's good to know, man. That is good to know. Thank you for the shout out. Send me some links to your stuff, dog. I want to see it, irrespective of what you're, irrespective of whether we need another artist or not. Cozy says the idea of capturing a baby version of the animal to tame makes more sense, especially aggressive animals. Yeah, I mean, I want to make mammoths tameable. I want an elephant stable. Oliphant. Defels94 says, hi, hello, Jorb. Hello. Princess Mandy91 says, oh, my dragon. Is it your dragon, Mandy? Did you make the dragon? It was a nice dragon. Don't get me wrong. I'm just curious as to why it's upside down on the menu. Boom. We got some fairy shrooms right here. I'll pick those. Arguably, these should be edible for a narcotic buff. We should do more narcotic buffs, by the way, like mushrooms that you can eat, and alcohol should arguably have its own. I don't know if you've played the old, like, what was it called, Death Rally game, where you can run over strange pills when you're. It's basically a game where you drive cars and shoot at each other. To be honest, since N69, I think the idea of animals all having baby versions would improve PvE experiences aside from entertainment. Yeah, that's probably a fair point. We could have like bear cubs, and they could be like lesser versions of bears. I would not be opposed to that. That could be a good idea if we want to add more animals. I think we're currently a little bit on a freeze on new animals, especially animals with like PvE implications, as we're working on a revamp of the combat system. Kind of don't want to add too much AI nonsense that we have to rewrite anyway. But in principle, I think animals would spawn in various family modules. Yeah, that's a fair and good point. Ooh, look, there's another fairy stone right next to the first one. He took it right away. What do you think, chat? Have we had enough bad experiences with horses today that we're now scared of riding one? I think not. I should think not. Neo Basilisk asks, now that there are seasons, have you thought about an end of the world season or event before World Resets where large amounts of terrain convert to some kind of corrupted hell version and stupidly powerful creatures, demons, trolls, whatever spawn on the surface everywhere? Could make the last week of a world more interesting, more exciting. Yeah, I mean, we've historically we've done that just kind of on the fly ourselves. So like added troll spawns and shit. So, I mean, we did that with the end of World 10, spawn trolls, all that jazz. But yeah, 69 is too much work for 1 week. Yeah, I mean, need to perhaps not be that much work, but if it's just a tile set, then I can design a tile set and that could be fine. But it's such a rare event that I don't want to kind of overinvest in it either. But I agree that I mean, some sort of like sending the world off is cool. Like having some sort of end of the world party is kind of cool. I like the end of the world. It's usually a very exciting time to be working with and Haven. World resets are always fun. Karambut asks, what do you think about more biomes like desert, savanna, wet tropics with bananas and coconuts? Maybe some more beach biomes with large clear sand. You guys added ocean. Sure, they're pretty cute beaches with crabs, but wanted some more and largest would cool for summer beach seasons and picnics on a towel. What does it say? Loftar. Best. Loftar. Heart. Best guy ever. That's true. Loftar is a great guy. So I have take no contest with that paving. He really is. He's a very kind and fun man to be around. Let's build another D frame. And we have none. Damn, can't even claim our poor little drink. So these crops are all turning fallow. Should probably harvest them and stockpile them. We do like deserts. I don't know. I feel deserts are like a bit out of season or out of scope for the game. To be honest, I think it would be rude not to not pave a +1 into the ground. Yeah, I could agree with that, but we need to chop down a tree, make a fire to eat some. Here's a tree. Chop, 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 chop down. Make some food for ourselves because we're starving and not healing, and everything is not as it should be. Damage from falling trees when? Mopsy Pacey says, 5 minutes, Jorbo. Go to sleep. You tired. That is true, sir. I'm really tired. So, well, we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. This has been a lot of fun as usual. Chatting, shooting the breeze with you all. And we're going to do it again in September. Damn, it's already September. 3/4 of the year gone. We're just gonna roast these and then we're gonna call it a night, assuming we can get the darn thing working, the goddamn thing working. Adventure, no, sorry. But yeah, this was a lot of fun as usual. Some good conversations here on the subjects of, like, you know, the quality curve, the endless grind, endless stat growth. What is endgame? Where is meteorite? Where is siege? Some good suggestions there for various, you know, high level rewards. What else was a good key takeaway from this stream? I think those were the main points. I think it's just the best mechanic of the game. Cozy TV says, to be honest, one of the first things I did in this game was chop a tree at Johan, and Johan Chan was standing beside to try and crush him. XRSP says, Jorb, will we be able to pimpla? That means ice fishing. Yes. Yes, we will add pimpling anytime at some point. When do we get machine guns? Yeah, machine guns, I don't know. Would machine guns be fun? Like full-on Arcanum style steampunk vibes when? I'm not entirely opposed to the idea, actually. Just roast these and go eat some food and we'll call it a night. Roast. Can we walk over Frozen River? Asks Snoopy9106. Yes, you can. Or you'll find out yourselves when you try. But yes, you can. Boom, boom. Perception, nice. Dexterity, nice. Alright, we're back in healing at least. Alright guys, I'm gonna call it a night there. And go to bed at some point. Probably not right away. I'm gonna eat some chocolate and drink some milk first. This was a lot of fun. God bless you all. Take care. Stay safe in and out of game. I love you, and if I do not love you, at least God loves you, and you need to know that. So accept Jesus into your life and know that He is the way, the truth, and the light in the world, of the world. And I'll see you all in September, and we'll play more Haven and Hearth then. This was, yeah, again, fun as always. We had a good discussion. I think I came away with some good insights from it, and yeah, what more can you ask for? Catch you all in September, and stay safe, and may the 4th be with you.